All right, I've got Chapter 5, Communication Policy and Technology. And first, we want to examine what's the purpose behind communication policy. Communication policy, the purpose of it is to allow society to shape the use of these communication technologies in order to best serve the citizens. We want to ensure that messages are distributed equitably, as well as the people who are distributing the messages. We want to make sure they're doing it in an equitable fashion. So the fundamental concept, the core item behind this is the First Amendment to our Bill of Rights. You've got a copy of it here in your PowerPoint, but it's with the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press is where we're specifically looking. But we got to remember the First Amendment was at a time where the printing press was our most state-of-the-art technology. We flash forward now and we look at all the different things that we have from our phones, computers, TV, all the different options that we have. That's quite a long time for one item to remain ongoing and dynamic. So what we have to do is investigate how has it maintained its relevance, and how do we continue to use the First Amendment to make positive changes over time. So we think about this as a juggling act whenever we think about policy and regulation. We take regulation and we've got three different things that are in play here. We've got the national interest, that's the interest of you and I, the people. We're working to satisfy those, to make sure that messages are out there that are acceptable. Then we've got the interest of the communication industry, those who are sending out the messages, those who own the messages, are their needs being met? And then we have what brings it all together. We have the reactions of policymakers, the reactions of those within the communication industry, and then the reactions of you and I as users of different forms of media. So that's how they all work together, and they provide and they compete for the technologies which are made available. So next we want to get into regulations. Regulations are, of course, a product of policy. In our text, there's three different forms of regulation. We have content, we have structural, and we have technical types of regulation. The content, as the degree to which the First Amendment comes into play. I think about content regulation as kind of like the mouthpiece to protect us as media users, as technology users, to protect us against, again, things that are unacceptable or deemed unacceptable. We get into structural regulation. Structural regulation is the power within and across the media industries. That's who owns, who controls the messages. Relates a lot to the depth and the breadth of policy. Technical gets into a much more minute, how much wattage can someone have, how much signal interference is there, if there is any, what frequency can someone provide and use in the media. So we've got our regulation, our content, our structural, and our technical. Well, who regulates? The regulator for the United States was formed. It's the Federal Communication Commission, the FCC. The FCC operates to protect, again, the public interest. This seems to be a paramount topic. We're here to protect the public interest. The FCC works mainly to protect the structural and technical forms of regulation. They want to know who's controlling the media, who are we giving it out in an equal fashion amongst all. Again, the technical, making sure that there's equal distribution of messages across the many different frequencies. Content still regulated. We see this as some of the headlines that come from FCC and their fines for things that are deemed inappropriate. So there's still regulation for content, but the FCC finds himself mainly a structural and technical police of sorts. Politics comes to play in this regulation as we kind of tend to seesaw back and forth between a more rigid and a less rigid style of regulators depending upon who's in office. So an interesting way to look at this is, again, we go back, First Amendment's written in a printing press. Then we move forward to now everything's at the palm of our hands. So looking back, connecting individuals locally was the huge topic. They did this through the telegraph, through telephone, through the initial stages of radio and TV in the broadcast industry. We connected on a local level. We wanted to get individuals to connect on a local level. Our policies were in place to ensure availability and protection for all. Well, now we transition again, and we're in a world that's global now. We're in a global society. We're connecting individuals and groups from around the world to do business, to conduct all sorts of operations, to worship. We do that through telephone, through broadcast, and through the internet. And we look at how far and how fast all these changes have come, and it all relates back to that same First Amendment. So with a global society, we're still working to ensure availability and protection for all. So it's got to be an ongoing and a dynamic situation. Present issues as we look at policy. Are messages being censored, or are they being manipulated in some forms? Who controls the message that lends itself to manipulation and censorship? And is there enough competition? Competition's another form of any business. Media is a form of business. So are too many people, too much owned by too few people? And then discrepancies in access. That's a key topic now with broadband. Are we allowing access of all of our capabilities with technology? So in order to look ahead, we've got to look back again. Vail in 1907 said we had one system, one policy with the goal of universal service. One system, at this time it was the telephone. We wanted to again connect those individuals. Well, now we shift forward to our text. We have many systems, many technologies with the same goal of universal service. Universal service remains the same, but now we have all these different technologies. We've come quite a way in 107 years. Our policymakers must work to remain in the game as these technologies and concepts will continue to adapt. So privacy is a hot button issue as it relates to our connectivity. We have the world at our fingertips. We are, at our core, we want to remain secure and private with our use. So personally, communally, and globally, privacy is key. My question to you is, how can regulation and regulators keep up with the demands of a society that demands more access, that demands more availability, yet still maintaining effective and thorough security and privacy measures? Thank you.